All right, I gotta get this off my chest. It's a problem that I have had for a very long time with the story of Job. Um, so for anybody who, I think most people have heard of Job and the story of Job, but for anybody who does not know the story, a quick recap is this guy Job. There's a depiction of him here at the top. He is this well-to-do guy. He has a nice big family who he loves. He's wealthy. He lives in comfort and style. He has servants, and he's God's favorite. All right, because he's supposed to be the most faithful one. He's supposed to be the one who's always held God in the highest honor, and so God always, just smothered him in blessings. And supposedly the story goes that one day Satan comes up to God and basically says, the only reason Job is so faithful to you is because you spoil him rotten. You just give him whatever he wants. And so no wonder, he's your favorite. So he just does whatever you want, right? And basically says, if you took everything away from him, though, if you took all his wealth, if you took his land, his cattle, his family, his servants, he would curse your name and he would hate you and he would not be faithful to you anymore. And so then supposedly Satan and God strike up a bargain, and God gives Satan the go ahead to do exactly what Satan said he should do. He to strip Job of everything he had. So Satan kills his entire family. Job has to watch his children die. I guess maybe watch his house and barn and such burn down. His crops fail. His servants died, and he was diseased and destitute, and yeah. Just to test him, just to test and see how much Job really loves God. All right, just to test him. Here's my problem with this story. It's a little psychopathic. Look at it this way, guys. If your girlfriend came over to your house and burned down your house and shot your dog and said, I just did it just to see how much you really love me. If you really love me, you'll forgive me, and I'll still be your girlfriend. You have to love me more than your house. You have to love me more than your dog. You would get a restraining order, wouldn't you? You would get a restraining order, and you would probably have her arrested and thrown in prison for arson. And if she killed your sister, your brother, whatever, maybe you had kids from a prior marriage or something, murdered all of them, you would have her thrown in prison, because that's crazy behavior. That is a loon. That's a lunatic, right? So now, mind you, this is not me saying that you shouldn't test somebody to see if they're capable of truly loving you. I totally advocate for that. But these means are absolutely insane. So, for example, I once, not very long ago, I suggested to a boy who was about to graduate high school, actually. He's very smart. He's going off to college. Cool kid. I worked with him. And we would hang out in the same area for our lunch breaks and stuff. And I was explaining to him about affective empathy versus cerebral empathy. Is it cerebral? Whatever. And so I was telling him, you want to make sure that when you eventually get a girlfriend, you want to make sure that she's got a good amount of affective empathy. People who don't have a good amount of affective empathy, that's a big red flag for a cluster B personality disordered person, like a psychopath or a sociopath. Affective empathy, for those of you who don't know, is when you see someone get hurt, you can almost feel their pain. You see someone get hit with a bat, you can almost feel that. You can almost feel the shadow of the pain. If they get hit in the head, you can almost feel where they got hit in the head. It's ooh, you ever see somebody get hit or hurt and go, ooh, it's because you can almost feel it, because that's affective empathy. You empathize with somebody pretty much immediately with their pain. And it's not just with pain. Sometimes it can happen with joy and sadness and so on and so forth. But you really want someone with affective empathy, particularly a female. If you're a male, you want to find a female with affective empathy, because that means she's going, like, typically what comes of these relationships are babies. And you want her to have immediate empathy with the baby, with the child. Because that's what's going to make her get up and change the baby's diaper for like the 5th time in an hour. It's like, dude, I just changed your diaper 5 minutes ago and you already just like filled it up with shit. How is this possible? Like, that's going to make her get off her ass, even though she's exhausted, and still do what she needs to do for the kid, because kids are huge, like, they just will suck the life and the energy out of you. And if you don't have that affective empathy driving you, that, like, I know when I was taking care of my niece, I was always on top of her diaper, because, like, just seeing any little bit of a red rash, I could almost feel it. And also for like a full year or longer after she was born, my imagination went wild, and it would just supply me with all the ways in which she could possibly die. Like, what if when she started walking, it was like, what if she just walks out in the street and gets hit? And then suddenly, like, the combination of my imagination, seeing her die in my mind, and then, or get hurt in my mind, and then the affective empathy that I have, I would, like, die a little bit every time with her. But we want that. That's necessary. We need females to have that, or they would be shit at rearing children. They wouldn't give a shit. They would not be on their toes doing everything they need to do for a kid. So anyway, sorry for going off on that little tangent, but so that's it. People who don't feel affective empathy, that's a big red flag for you're dealing with probably a psychopath, a sociopath, or a garden variety, a narcissist. And those people cannot feel love, not real self-sacrificing love, which is what I just described. Self-sacrificing love is like a mom's love for her child. Like, she would face down a bear with a stick to save her kid. You know, so yeah, so I definitely advocate people, like, do certain things. So I told him, circling back, I told the kid that I was working with, you know, if you're taking a girl out and you want to know if she's, you know, healthy minded, has a healthy set of emotions and a healthy amount of empathy, take her out, like, to the movies or something, and have her, you know, watch something where one of the lead characters that you become invested in gets hurt, horribly hurt, and pay attention how she reacts. Make sure she has a reaction, you know, make sure she's paying attention to the movie, and make sure she has a reaction to the person getting hurt, you know, and she should kind of tense up. She should kind of, like, feel like she's gonna just hurt a little bit. If it doesn't faze her at all, that's a red flag. That's a big problem. You should be careful with that. So I definitely advocate for people putting others through some minor tests, smart, intelligent tests, to gauge whether or not they are capable of true love, real love, and giving a shit about, because you don't want to be in a relationship with a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist. You just don't. It's not fun. I've been there. Trust me, it's not fun. So this is not about that. This is not about testing somebody to see if they love you. It's about the lengths to which, like, I mean, again, the healthy way is to take them out and watch how they respond to somebody getting hurt at a movie, right? The unhealthy way is killing their family and burning down their house and getting them fired from their job and all that shit. And it's like, do you still love me? You're supposed to still love me. Like, you're crazy. That's a crazy person. All right. And here's the other thing that bothers me is, like, there's another part of the Bible that says, what you bind on earth, I shall bind in heaven. What you loose on earth, I shall loose in heaven. Essentially saying, what you hold true on earth, what we hold true on earth, God is supposed to hold true in heaven. It's like, well, okay, well, the shit that you pulled with Job, or allowed Satan to pull with Job, because remember, Satan couldn't have done it unless you gave the go-ahead, right? Because supposedly you're the all-powerful one, right? So he wouldn't be able to do any of that unless you gave him permission. So you allowed Satan to fuck with Job you had him kill his children. That is fucked up. Just to prove that he loved you? That's a psychopath. And we do consider that down here. Anybody down here Like I just said, you would consider that to be a psychopath. If anybody came along and tried to see if you truly loved them by like murdering your family and destroying your life, you would think they were crazy. And we hold that true down here. So you're supposed to hold that true up in heaven, right, dude? Right? So that whole shit you pulled with Job is Psycho Town. That's crazy shit. Like, so I don't know if you guys can give me an explanation. Like I watch the Christians. This is where the Christians are all going to chime in with their little loophole of like, whatever God does, and you can't question it because God. You know what else God did? God gave us brains to be able to think critically about these things and analyze these stories and figure out, like, you know, does this add up? Does it make any sense really at the end of the day? And if God didn't want us to do that, God wouldn't have gifted us these amazing brains, right? Right. So, yeah, just had to get that off my chest. That's something that's always bothered me about the story of Job. It's like, this is psycho behavior. That's a psycho. Who does that? Who puts somebody